The television courtroom had seen every kind of deception imaginable throughout Judge Judy Sheehan's 25-year career. She had presided over cases involving cheating spouses, dishonest tenants, scam contractors, and every form of manipulation people could invent. Yet despite decades of exposing lies and tearing apart excuses with ruthless precision, there was one thing no one had ever witnessed inside her courtroom. Judge Judy had never cried. Her reputation was built on toughness, sharp questions, brutal honesty, absolute control. She never allowed emotion to interfere with judgment, until the day James Mitchell stepped into her courtroom carrying a folded letter inside the pocket of his faded military jacket. James stood at the defendant's podium with trembling hands wrapped around the wooden rail. At 67 years old, exhaustion had carved itself into his face. Deep wrinkles lined his skin like scars, left by years of hardship, loneliness, and sleepless nights. His old army jacket looked worn from endless use, but the Purple Heart pinned to his collar still reflected light beneath the courtroom lamps. Across from him sat Patricia Brennan, dressed in an expensive designer suit that radiated wealth and confidence. She was suing James for $8,500, claiming unpaid rent, property destruction, lease violations, and refusal to vacate her apartment after eviction proceedings. Her briefcase overflowed with evidence: photographs, reports, legal documents, witness statements. Everything appeared perfectly organized. At first glance, the case looked simple: a landlord versus another troubled tenant. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and glanced down at the paperwork. Patricia Brennan versus James Mitchell, unpaid rent, $6,200 pottery damage, $4,200, multiple lease violations over 11 months. She lifted her eyes toward James. He stood perfectly still, staring downward, his military posture somehow surviving, despite the obvious damage life had done to him. Judge Judy had handled thousands of defendants over the years, and she trusted her instincts more than any evidence file. Usually, she could recognize dishonesty within seconds, but something about this case felt wrong. Patricia sat with complete certainty, while James looked like a man who had already accepted defeat. Long before entering the courtroom, Patricia spoke first. "Your Honor, this is a straightforward situation involving a tenant who destroyed my property and refuses to take responsibility. Mr. Mitchell moved into my apartment complex early last year. At first there were no issues, but after several months the complaints started. Loud disturbances, damaged walls, broken fixtures. I tried working with him, but he ignored lease terms, refused to pay for repairs, and even after eviction notices were filed, he still refused to leave. Police had to respond multiple times." She removed several photographs from her briefcase and handed them over. The pictures showed a studio apartment in terrible condition. Holes smashed into drywall, broken sink fixtures, damaged door frames. Judge Judy studied each image carefully before turning toward James. "Mr. Mitchell, what do you have to say about these accusations?" James slowly raised his head. His eyes were swollen and tired. For several seconds he couldn't speak. Then he reached into his jacket pocket. Carefully, he removed a folded piece of paper, worn thin from being opened countless times. The edges were soft with age. Stains marked the creases. "Your Honor," he said quietly, his voice unsteady, "this is a letter from my daughter. She wrote it before she died." The courtroom fell silent. Judge Judy accepted the letter from his shaking hand and unfolded it slowly. As her eyes scanned the opening lines, something shifted in her expression. The hard edge in her face softened. She looked at James, then at Patricia, then back down at the letter again. She reread the words more carefully this time. The silence became heavy. Bailiff Bird noticed the change immediately and stepped slightly closer to the bench. In the audience, nobody moved. Patricia shifted nervously in her chair. Judge Judy placed the letter gently on the desk, but kept one hand resting on top of it. "Mrs. Brennan," she said quietly, "this letter was written by Mr. Mitchell's daughter, Sarah Mitchell. She served as an army medic and completed 2 overseas tours." Judge Judy paused. "And according to this letter, she also lived in your apartment complex." Patricia's expression tightened. Judge Judy continued, "She fell behind on rent while dying from cancer, and you evicted her 2 months before she passed away." Gasps exploded through the courtroom. Patricia immediately straightened herself. "Your Honor, I fail to see how this personal letter relates to the current case." Judge Judy leaned forward slowly. "Oh, it's relevant," she replied, her voice carrying restrained anger. "It's extremely relevant, because what this letter describes appears to reveal a pattern. And after reviewing your business practices last night, my research team uncovered information that changes everything." Patricia's confidence began to fade. What she didn't realize was that the letter Judge Judy held in her hands was about to expose a scheme that had devastated dozens of veteran families. And Sarah Mitchell's final words were not written as a goodbye. They were written as evidence. Judge Judy glanced down at the worn paper again. "Mrs. Brennan," she said, "you own Patriot Gardens Apartments, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." "You advertise those properties specifically toward veterans and military families?" "Yes. My father served in the military. I take pride in supporting veterans by offering affordable housing." Judge Judy nodded slightly. "How many veteran tenants have you evicted during the last 3 years?" Patricia hesitated. "I don't know the exact number. Estimate, maybe 10 or 12. Judge Judy opened another file. Court records show 23 veteran eviction cases filed by your company during that same period. 23. Would you like to correct your statement? Whispers spread through the courtroom. Patricia's lawyer leaned toward her, whispering urgently, but she brushed him aside. Evictions are legal, Your Honor. I followed the law. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. Interesting pattern, though. Every veteran tenant you evicted lived in your properties between 8 and 11 months. Every one of them was charged excessive damage fees beyond their deposits. Everyone was sent to collections afterward. Patricia crossed her arms defensively. Veterans sometimes struggle with PTSD and behavioral issues that result in damage. Judge Judy's expression hardened. Sympathetic answer. Let's discuss Sarah Mitchell. The room became silent again. Sarah Mitchell served honorably overseas, Judge Judy said. She moved into your apartment complex while receiving chemotherapy for stage 4 breast cancer. Medical records confirm she informed you of her condition because she needed accommodations for treatment. Patricia remained silent. After falling behind on rent due to chemotherapy expenses, she contacted you asking for additional time until her VA benefits arrived. Instead, you filed eviction paperwork against her. Patricia lifted her chin. I followed legal procedures. Judge Judy stared directly at her. She died 2 months later in a veteran shelter after being removed from your property. Several audience members shook their heads in disbelief. Patricia's lawyer tried calming her, but she pulled away angrily. I didn't know she was dying that fast, Patricia said defensively. I'm not a doctor. Judge Judy picked up Sarah's letter again. Let me read part of what she wrote. Her voice remained steady, though emotions strained beneath every word. Dad, I'm sorry I couldn't fight the eviction. The treatments made me too weak. Mrs. Brennan came to the hospital asking when I planned to pay the damage charges. I told her I was dying. She said that wasn't her concern. The courtroom remained completely silent. Judge Judy continued reading. Dad, if she ever comes after you, don't surrender. She targets veterans because she thinks we're too broken to fight back. But we survived war. We can survive people like her. Expose what she's doing. Judge Judy stopped reading. For the first time in her television career, tears filled her eyes. She blinked hard, trying to regain control. James stood silently crying beside the defense table. Patricia had gone completely pale. Judge Judy inhaled slowly. You visited a cancer patient in a hospital to collect a debt? Patricia's voice barely emerged. That's not what happened. Then explain what happened. No answer came. Judge Judy closed the folder. We're taking a 15-minute recess. And when we return, I'm going to reveal exactly what my team discovered about your business operation. When court resumed, the atmosphere had changed completely. Patricia sat rigid beside her attorney while James somehow appeared stronger, as though his daughter's words had given him courage again. Judge Judy returned carrying a thick file. Mrs. Brennan, she began, I reviewed your company's financial records during the recess. Patricia's attorney stood immediately. Objection. Sit down, Judge Judy snapped. These are public records. Then she looked back at Patricia. In the last 3 years, your company collected over $427,000 in damage claims from veteran tenants. Patricia shifted nervously. Repairs are expensive. Judge Judy flipped another page. Your repair contractor is RB Construction Services. Yes. Owned by your brother, Robert Brennan. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Judy continued. Your tenants were routinely charged over $4,000 for ordinary repairs that should have cost under $1,000. Patricia's face flushed red. There's nothing illegal about hiring family. Judge Judy leaned forward. No, but there is something illegal about inflating repair costs and targeting vulnerable veterans for profit. Then she laid out the scheme piece by piece. Veterans were lured in through patriotic marketing. Minor violations were documented obsessively. Inflated repair invoices were issued. When tenants couldn't pay, they were evicted, financially destroyed, and replaced with new victims. 23 families in 3 years. James listened silently while the truth unfolded. Then Judge Judy looked directly at Patricia again. You knew exactly who James Mitchell was when he applied for housing, didn't you? Patricia hesitated. Judge Judy didn't let her escape. You remembered evicting his dying daughter. Then, less than a year later, you rented an apartment to her grieving father. James finally spoke. She told me she remembered Sarah, he said softly. Said she wanted to help me start over. Judge Judy shook her head, slowly. She wasn't helping you. She was hunting you. Patricia suddenly stood up angrily. This is outrageous. I run a legal business. Judge Judy's voice cut through the courtroom. Sit down. At that moment, a man from the audience rose to his feet. Your Honor, he said, she did the same thing to me. Judge Judy motioned him forward. The man introduced himself as Michael Torres, a disabled Navy veteran. She charged me thousands for installing safety bars in my bathroom, he explained. I needed them because of my disability. When I couldn't pay her repair fees, she evicted me too. Judge Judy looked back toward Patricia. How many veterans have you destroyed? Patricia remained silent. Judge Judy closed the file. I'm referring this matter to the State Attorney General for criminal investigation. When court resumed after another recess, 2 investigators from the Attorney General's office sat in the front row waiting. Judge Judy addressed James first. "Mr. Mitchell, your daughter documented the truth to protect you, and because of her courage, this scheme has been exposed." Then she turned toward Patricia. "I find your testimony completely unbelievable. The evidence reveals a deliberate operation targeting vulnerable veterans through fraud, inflated damage claims, and financial abuse." Her voice became ice cold. "This was never simply a landlord dispute. This was exploitation." Then came the judgment. "Mr. Mitchell owes you nothing." Patricia stared in disbelief. "The alleged rent debt is void. The damage claims are rejected entirely." Judge Judy continued, "You now owe Mr. Mitchell $48,500 in damages." The courtroom exploded into applause. But Judge Judy still wasn't finished. "The eviction filed against Mr. Mitchell will be expunged immediately. Your business records will undergo forensic audit. All veteran tenants previously targeted by your company will be reviewed for restitution." She gestured toward the investigators. "And the Attorney General's office is launching a criminal investigation effective immediately." Patricia's voice trembled. "You can't destroy my business over speculation." Judge Judy stared directly at her. "I'm not destroying your business. You destroyed it yourself the moment you decided grieving veterans were profitable targets." The hearing ended. Veterans from the audience surrounded James, many openly crying. Patricia attempted leaving quietly, but investigators intercepted her at the exit. Judge Judy later called James toward the bench. "Do you have anyone helping you right now?" James shook his head slowly. "My daughter was all I had." Immediately, several people stepped forward from the courtroom audience, offering assistance. A woman who ran veteran transitional housing offered him a room. Another man from the VA promised to personally resolve his delayed benefits claim. Judge Judy nodded toward them. "Accept the help?" "Mr. Mitchell, your daughter fought to protect you. Honor her by allowing people to stand beside you now." James quietly thanked her. Judge Judy carefully handed Sarah's letter back to him. "Keep this safe," she said. "Today truth won."